Okay, Kim, I'm going to cancel my spotlight. And you can go, Kim. Okay, Kim, I'm going to cancel my spotlight. And you can go, Kim. Okay, Kim, I'm going to cancel my spotlight.
The table about to turn. The table about to turn. Yeah. I've been flipping through my timeline, trying to get my mind right. My city crying out. I got to cool down, but I'm under pressure. Cooking with my Crisco. Look at what my fists go. My city crying out in a rage. I got to cool down, but I'm under pressure. I keep my hands dirty, my mind clean. Got a new agenda with a new dream. I'm kicking out the old regime. Liberation, elevation, education. America, with the whole world about to testify. I said the whole world about to testify. And the table's about to, the table's about to turn. Ain't no stopping till it turn. No stopping till turn. We can't wait for it to turn. Yeah, the table got to turn. It's a boomerang booming back. Yeah, you laid an egg, now it's about to hatch. Yeah, your gaslighting about to meet your match. The kitchen, then you should do the dishes. Burning down plantations. Ain't no parking, I don't need no validation. I like sage when I'm in a rage. I don't need permission, I got my intuition. Hands dirty, mind clean. A different vision with a new dream. We kicking out the old regime. Liberation, elevation, education. I said America, but the whole world about to testify. I said the whole world about to testify. We gon' watch the table. Now we gon' watch the table turn. The table got to. That's right. Turn. It's got to. Waited too long, you gotta turn. Just turn. Said the table got to. We see it all now. Turn. Said the table got to turn. Yeah. Turn. The table got to.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Dr. Mati Hlachwayo Davis, and I am the co-chair of the Fast Track Cities St. Louis.
Good evening, and I'm Franda Thomas. I'm also co-chair of Fast Track City St. Louis. We want to welcome you to tonight's World AIDS Day celebration in recognition of our first anniversary of Fast Track City St. Louis. We are so excited that y'all are here with us tonight.
Today, as you know, is World AIDS Day, and I'd just like to take a second for us to consider a few really key points about this pivotal day. The first is for us to remember those we have lost, but to be thoughtful about the path ahead. Since 1982, we have made so many advances in the care of people living with HIV, from more accurate and faster diagnostic to 1 pill a day treatments, PrEP. And yet here we are in 2020 and there's still so much work to do. And in my mind, that work centers around eliminating stigma, addressing barriers to care, and fighting systemic and institutional racism. Tonight is a celebration. I'm so looking forward to the program that we have before us. A couple of housekeeping notes about tonight's discussion. If you're joining us on Zoom, please feel free to use the question and answer option on your screen, and we'll try to get to as many of the questions as possible following tonight's speakers.
Thanks, Marty. Now, because as she stated, we have a jam-packed program tonight, and we're super excited for you to see all the hard work that this committee has put together. So I would like to introduce our Director of Health, Dr. Frederick Eccles. Dr. Eccles, you're on mute.
Thank you, Dr. Mahdi and Franda, for those words. Each year on December 1st, we bring attention to the HIV epidemic in an effort to increase HIV awareness and knowledge of our present and our past. As we reflect on the history of HIV, we acknowledge that significant strides have been made to improve biomedical resources and support services for persons living with HIV. Today, persons living with HIV are able to live normal lives. However, we also acknowledge that persons living with HIV continue to be stigmatized and pushed to the edge of society. Today, and throughout the year, the City of St. Louis Department of Health and our Fast Track City partners speak out against HIV stigma and stigma associated with sexual and reproductive health, and calls for an increased response to move the St. Louis region towards ending the HIV epidemic in the St. Louis region. For persons living with HIV, we want you to know that you are not forgotten. We see you, we care about you, but most importantly, we hear you. The City of St. Louis Department of Health would not be able to continue lifting this critical work if we did not have the support of key stakeholders. The next person I'm going to introduce is a true public health champion and has supported the health department's efforts to move towards a region that is that supports health, racial, and social justice. As the first female mayor of the City of St. Louis, she has demonstrated and continues to demonstrate remarkable stickability, courage, and resilience. It is my honor and a pleasure to introduce to you the Honorable Lyda Krewson, Mayor of the City of St. Louis.
Thank you, Dr. Eccles. I appreciate that. And stickability, I like that. That's it's easy to stick with you guys here because of the great work that you're all doing. That includes Dr. Eccles and Franda, and of course, Dr. Mahdi, if I can be so bold as to call you Dr. Mahdi. So World AIDS Day provides us with an opportunity to pause and rededicate the city's support for individuals living with HIV and AIDS, and to recommit to our Fast Track City 90-90-90 goals of working through our alliances with global partners to end the HIV epidemic by 2030. These goals are ensuring 90% of those individuals living with HIV know their HIV status. 90% of people who know their HIV status, positive status, are accessing treatment, and 90% of people on treatment having suppressed viral loads. Nationally, there are approximately 1.2 million people living with HIV in the United States. The CDC and prevention estimates that of those 1.2 million individuals, nearly 1 in 8, so 161,000 people, do not know that they are infected. Here in St. Louis, as of December 31, 2018, there were 3,430 residents living with a known diagnosis of HIV disease. Once again, as has been reported with numerous public health challenges, African Americans share a disproportionate burden of the impact from HIV and AIDS in our community. And from 2014 to 2018, African American residents in the city of St. Louis and St. Louis County had an HIV/AIDS diagnosis rate more than 3 times that of Caucasian residents. Over the past several decades, HIV testing and treatment have undergone great strides. Those advancements in treatment and clinical understanding of how HIV progresses and allowing people with HIV to live longer and live fuller lives. But as the statistics I previously shared highlight, current disparities among persons living with HIV, even with such advancement, there's much more to do. Doing more is what the City of St. Louis is planning. The City of St. Louis is committed to being a leader in efforts to correct misinformation and to reduce stigma associated with HIV and AIDS. Misinformation and stigma are major barriers to testing and treatment efforts. So I, of course, would like to commend Dr. Eccles and the Department of Health on the 3-tiered approach to hurdling these barriers. Tier 1, increasing membership in the department's Fade Out HIV initiative, where barbers and beauticians are equipped with information on safe and healthy sex practices, to engage captive audiences while they're at the barber or the salon chair. Tier 2, increasing sites associated with the department's condom distribution project in the metro area to go beyond talking about safe sex and to go to actually equipping individuals with the resources and the information they need to reduce risky behaviors. And Tier 3, engaging the department's Clergy Advisory Board to distribute honest and accurate information, not only to members' individual faith communities, but to neighborhoods and to the broader community. So on behalf of the City of St. Louis, I offer a recommitment to our determination to stay the course and continue fighting the battle to end HIV and AIDS through ongoing efforts to prevent new cases of HIV and to support individuals living with HIV and AIDS and working to meet our fast track city goals. Finally, I want to thank the city's numerous partners in this mission. I truly believe we can reach our goal of eliminating AIDS by uniting as leaders, mobilizing our resources, and accelerating our response to meet local needs. Thanks to all of you for the work that you do every day. And I will just conclude by saying I'm proud to be a part of this effort and to be a part of the good work that all of you all are doing. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. We really appreciate your support, not just with words, but through action. And again, that speaks volumes to us, and we really appreciate all that you continue to do for us. It's also an honor and a privilege for me to introduce the next guest, whose visionary leadership and dedication to addressing social determinants of health, which has resulted in his remarkable track record for improving community health. Rick Stevens, the president of Christian Hospital, which is a member of the BJC healthcare system, continues to position Christian Hospital as a provider of quality healthcare services in North St. Louis County. I am pleased to introduce Mr. Rick Stevens, president of Christian Hospital.
Thank you, Dr. Eccles, and I'm glad to be here to talk about how we're partnering with you and everyone on this panel here today, and how we're improving the lives of the communities that we serve, which is our mission here at Christian Hospital. And so today we know more about HIV than we did many years ago. We know more about how to prevent infection than any other time in the history of the disease. But we know that significant challenges do remain. Each year in the United States, as many as 50,000 people become infected with HIV, and nearly 13,000 people die with AIDS. But too few people with HIV are aware of their infection. Every individual needs to know their status. And that can only be done by getting tested. And of the approximately 1.2 million people living with HIV in the United States, the CDC estimates nearly 1 in 8, more than 161,000 people, do not know that they are infected. Many people, even those who engage in high-risk behavior, do not get tested because they do not believe they are at risk for HIV infection. Others misunderstand the testing process, not realizing that rapid HIV tests can be done with a simple cheek swab or finger prick and provide results in as little as 20 minutes. Some are concerned that other people will find out that they have been tested or that they sought testing at all, although testing is completely confidential. Some may avoid testing simply because they are afraid their tests will be positive. So I'm pleased that we're partnering with you, Dr. Eccles, and everyone on this panel, that Christian Hospital, as you said, in North County, will be the only hospital in the county to offer the opt-out testing or the rapid HIV testing. And I think that's going to mean a lot for this community as we go forward, because we want individuals to know if they are positive. Unlike HIV 30 years ago, you can live a normal life with HIV, and the therapies that we have today are, a million times more better than they were 30 years ago in the 80s and in the 90s. And so what we want to do, again, live our mission and improve the lives of the communities that we serve. And by partnering with you, Dr. Eccles, and everyone on this panel, this definitely helps us live the mission that we have, improving the lives of the communities that we serve. Because we know that everyone doesn't have access to care. Having health insurance can enable a person to more easily access HIV care treatment, but nearly 20% of African Americans and 30% of Latinos lack consistent health insurance compared with 11% of whites. And then the low socioeconomic status. So the CDC research shows that those who cannot afford the basics in life may end up in circumstances that increase their HIV risk. Census data indicates that in the United States, poverty is not evenly distributed, and nearly a quarter of African Americans and Latino families live in poverty. So again, being here in North County, being able to offer these tests affects everyone. And we see everyone from a socioeconomic status here at Christian. And so again, this is giving access to individuals who may not have that access. And again, we're the only hospital in the county to be able to do this. And so we're pleased to do this and make an impact in the community as well. So thank you for allowing me to be on here and share those words and to be a part of this today.
Eric Stevens, thank you so much. We appreciate your willingness to participate in the Expanded Testing Initiative program, which again, as you mentioned, allows every individual to receive an HIV test, regardless of their economic status, socioeconomic status, education status, et cetera. And when we look at our partners across the region that are participating in our efforts to reduce or address issues related to the HIV epidemic, we're extremely grateful for their interest in not only hearing about the work that we're doing, but actually becoming participants in helping lift the work. So we're grateful for you, your team of amazing physicians and staff who have really ran with this project, and we're looking forward to seeing the fruits of your labor over the months and years to come.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Madi Latchwayo-Davis and Franda Thomas.
Thank you, Dr. Eccles. It's been wonderful to hear from leadership in our region, and I want to thank all of them for joining us this evening. I promised you a celebration, and the celebration is upcoming. So a few things to look forward to. First, we are going to unveil the regional and state dashboard that we have put together through Fast Track Cities. What I think is the most important part of this call after that will be hearing from members of our community and hearing their stories, their testimonies, and the words that they have to impart on this pivotal day. And after that, we will open it up for discussion and questions and hopefully have some real and genuine discussion to wrap up this evening. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce a colleague, a friend, and a leader, Dr. Corey Bradley, who will take us through the unveiling of our dashboard. Dr. Bradley.
Wonderful. Thank you to my St. Louis city of St. Louis and St. Louis County family. I am new to the region in ways. I have kind of deep family roots that go back, but was raised here in Dallas, and I have been invited into this work with the region and contemplating making this move and coming to do this work. I felt a very special energy and sense deeply the opportunity that's open for us. And so it's just great to be here at a 1-year anniversary for Fast Track Cities, St. Louis, and then also to celebrate World AIDS Day with my new community. And I also have the opportunity to unveil, as it is, this glorious work. And I call it glorious because of what it's what went into it speaks far greater volumes than what you even may be able to see. But what you will see, I think you will be very impressed with and delighted with. Just to frame this a little bit, Alden Morris, who's an African-American sociologist extraordinary, talked a little bit about the civil rights movement and talked about how it came to be. How did it come to have its power and its fire, its energy? How did that movement develop? And he suggested that movements are made possible when you have these frames that line up, when the activists, the leaders, the major institutions, those who are considered the elite and those who are not, share a particular understanding and share a mode of representation about the nature of a problem. And so he calls this frame alignment and indicated that the movement was pushed forward and buoyed all of its challenges because of a rhetoric that came out of that broad consensus on that frame. And so you will see and hear, and as you probably already have, about ending the HIV epidemic. And so to put power to that sentiment so that it doesn't just hang in the air as some lofty hope, this dashboard comes out of that effort. Fast Track Cities emerges out of that motivation. So, why do we do this dashboard? Is this just kind of another way to throw data out here and this is about a clinical world? We've discovered that it's just so much more. Dashboards offer, and they're framed that way because the thought is that, when you're driving, you have your dashboard that tells you where you are, what you need, if you need gas, if you're going too fast, you're going too slow, right? All of those things, if your engine's bad. And so here we've cobbled together the data that we have and worked through the process of understanding it so that it could be presented and visually represented. And important in that process is that we discover data transparency. And this is not just transparency because somebody's making up figures, but that we all go through this process of understanding, knowing, and identifying and all of these things together, collectively, rather, I should say. And then having access to data, because ultimately this is the data of folks in our communities, right? So it's not just a person's or an institution's. And then it supports great decision-making, accountability, and then mostly, I shouldn't say mostly, but very important to us is interactivity, because we are seeking to expand the involvement of our communities and stakeholders, and not just HIV service providers and folks who kind of know the HIV world, but we need the non-traditional, non-conventional partners. We need grandmas and cousins and pastors and all of those folks into this space. And we want to build ourselves around a shared understanding. And so you've probably seen that kiosk, and we talk about this rather in the dashboard that talks about you are here. And it helps you identify where you are in reference to where you hope to end up. And so similarly for Fast Track Cities, we needed that common reference point that will allow us to learn from our successes and then take the necessary action that will improve the health and well-being of our communities. And the HIV dashboard is that for us. And we know that it cannot be accomplished without the trust and support of our communities with whom we do this work. And so our purpose here really is to provide data that can be used to inform a vision of where we must go and where we need to allocate resources, how we need to shape services, and who we need to be standing up a little higher for, a little stronger for, showing up a little stronger for. And then the last thing I want to just say as I present this is that by far, these are lives reflected behind these figures and these numbers. There's the idea somehow that data is objective, and that can be argued, but definitely there's a narrative always. And so this dashboard and this interaction is an attempt and an effort to direct the narrative in the way that brings us to the end of the HIV epidemic in St. Louis, the city of St. Louis and St. Louis County. So I've said a lot to kind of preface it. I hopefully I've baited you so that you're like, boy, show it already. So let me just get myself prepared and switch screens here. Drum roll, please. Wonderful. So another really important caveat, and I'll talk with you through kind of what, some of the higher places and things that we learned, both from the process, and then I'll take you through some of the features of the actual website. But I do want to note, and this is an important caveat, that this is certainly a work in progress, and we hope to update with the feedback of our stakeholders, and definitely as new data becomes available. We are definitely interested, sorry, I scrolled a little early, in knowing how it's being communicated. Are there different and better ways to say these things? And then there are various audiences that we're reaching here. So we want the engagement and the interaction. Help us know how do we communicate this, and so that we can create a compelling call to action for our communities and our stakeholders. So we got a little bit, and as Mayor Krewson alluded to, the goals, and I wanted to emphasize the elimination of HIV stigma, which we've been talking about as a barrier to optimal health. Got a little bit about the dashboard, and here, this is so exciting. I'll just say this because I think I can. I wrote in an email. I'm so excited to see, and even as Dr. Eccles shared, on the health department's website, a space like that, where we are explicitly saying to folks, we care and it matters, and hold us accountable to it. And so I'm really grateful to be a part of a city and a community that is not afraid to make that statement and to hold all of us accountable to making sure that that is the experience of folks. So you'll see here the core team, and if you'll have some time, just get a sense of the kind of commitments that folks have made to Fast Track Cities and to the lives of people living with HIV, and to the lives of communities who are working arduously to prevent or protect, rather, I should say, protect sexual health and well-being, irrespective of their status. And so these are a tremendous cadre of folks that have been a part of this process. And we have moments in our meetings where we just kind of recenter ourselves and remember and call again, as World AIDS Day invites us to, call ourselves again to this work and this effort and what we do. So that's a place that we hope will be accessible, exciting for you to see. Then we get to the data overview, and here I want to, you'll see this really beautiful, easily used the manipulation of the dashboard, where you can look between the different regions or geographic areas rather. And here I just want to point out when we talk about those living with HIV disease, because once again, we're still asking ourselves, what is the other data that we need? This is primarily reflective of the cases that we know, but there's certainly a lot of cases that we haven't tapped into. And so that next piece of data, for example, will be for us to develop some calculations and get the data we need to get a sense of how many people in our communities might be living with HIV and are undiagnosed. But yes, that's what I meant to say. So dashboard conveys that this is diagnosed cases and not necessarily true cases and prevalence. If you go a little further, you'll see writing and text rather to describe what you're seeing in the graph, some of the terms, so that once again, we're on this notion of shared understandings. So if you'll take a look at those, and we've described linkage to care and what it means, and provided the information and stats in different ways to identify that. So really excited about those things. At the next point, tab for the dashboard, this is probably more for our wonks, our data wonks, and people who have a curiosity that extends beyond just kind of like, you know, those broader numbers. And so we have looked at breakdowns by race, by sex, by age group, transmission category. And I think it's really important to say here that there are some folks who are not represented well by this data, the data that we currently have even. For example, folks identifying as trans and living a trans experience are not adequately reflected in data collection in general. So I think that potentially this dashboard provides an opportunity to advocate for the collection and inclusion of that information. And this is also why you will see, as Dr. Mati mentioned, we've invited the perspectives of various community members to show up beyond what this data can tell us. But we've discovered that, you know, this is the work that must be done, and what we need to know, we've worked through that, but because the cases don't tell us about the people for whom we need to intensify our reach. And so this page here gives us an opportunity to think about that and provide that information. And then we have some test and care location information. If you want to encourage folks in your communities and networks, they can identify their zip code and find where they can get those services. We've also provided additional information and services and resources, local outreach services. If you are someone who has aware of your diagnosis and just have been pushed, I like to say sometimes, by whatever factors exist out of medical care, there's an opportunity. We'd like for you to give us an opportunity. And I say we as a community, because the public health system is ours, hello, to be able to help you make that connection. And so we hope that folks will be able to do that, take advantage of that as well. And then also be able to learn more about HIV. So I'll wrap it up here. The process, you know, my mom always said the journey is more important than the destination. And so the work that has gone into this is beyond like, what do we know? Which those are important questions. What do we know? What more can we know? And it's given us a chance, that data, when we look at it, to answer the question as to, well, why is that showing up that way? And bringing in the various narratives and experiences and realities that we know, some of them that were named by previously in the discussion, these issues around access to care. So we're learning with each other and asking the most kinds of fundamental questions when we were pulling the data together to help us really know, what do we know and what we really don't know? What can we say and what can't we say? And then also the collaborative process and energy that went into this effort was just electric. And we were learning with each other and asking those questions. And so again, I say to you that this is a living, breathing kind of experience and a living and breathing approach to evolve with you all. And I would like to insert this language that it gives us an opportunity to really think about data as justice. And how do we use this information together and collectively to get to that place of optimal health and well-being, irrespective of one's status. In conclusion, I just want to acknowledge folks, and I think Dr. Mati and others will be able to join to make this even more complete. But gratitude to the Institute for Public Health at WashU, led by Dr. Powderly, Bill Powderly, and he's made this investment that made it possible for me to be here, to be a part of this work. And so really grateful for that. Thankful to our co-chairs, Dr. Mati and Franda and Elvin, my mentor in this postdoc experience, and for taking that chance on me personally and for their trust and their unyielding support in this process, as well as that professional guidance. Matthew Hassam of the City of St. Louis Health Department served as our grand web designer and an awesome facilitator for the technical aspects, and Ben Durnell, web development specialist with the City of St. Louis. Both of them came through in incredibly tight times with very tight deadlines, and can't believe we're all still friends and possibly want to continue working together. To our EpiPlus team and Out of Sight team, enhanced and supplemented by our acting, I call him the acting so well director for the City of St. Louis Health Department, Dr. Eccles, Preeti Palluri, and the EpiWork team, Tanya Brown of Vivint, Dr. Jim Heinrichs, and Dr. Carol Baskins with County Health Department, St. Louis County Health Department, really supported by our partners at the state, Christine Smith, Chief of the Bureau of HIV, STD, and Hepatitis, Dalton I can't say his last name, so I'm not going to butcher that, with the Bureau of Reportable Disease Informatics. We had weekly meetings throughout November. Some folks were working on the weekends, emails going everywhere. But as I said again, I think we were able to capture an ethos of our work going forward. And this is what we wanted to present to our communities, to our stakeholders, to invite you into a process to get us to those end of the HIV epidemic goals. So with that, I'll conclude and pass it back to Dr. Mati. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bradley. The love and passion that went into this is tangible in your voice. And I hope that it will be as easily accessible to everyone here today. What I want people to take away from the words that you just imparted is data is justice. And those of us who do this work walk alongside those of you living with HIV. And it is the efforts embodied in this dashboard, along with the projects that are to come, that will make us hopefully more accessible to you, but allow you to keep us accountable so that we can do better, because we must and because we can. So I already see that questions are being populated in the question and answer session. Thank you all. It lets me know that we have not put you to sleep quite yet. I am amazed that the numbers of participants have stayed up. I thank you. I hope it's not because you've muted us and you're watching whatever reality TV show is on right now. So hang tough with us. Right now, I'm going to hand you over to a warrior, an activist, a friend, and a leader who does this walk, who walks the walk, and who, quite frankly, has kept us honest since the inception of Fast Track Cities. It is my pleasure to hand over to our MC for the voices of this World AIDS Day celebration, Nishi.
Thank you, Dr. Mati, for your excellent and warm welcome of me tonight. I want to say hats off to you. I could not have done this without you, your leadership, your mentorship, your countless numbers that you have put on the front line for so many. So I want to say thank you. We are making progress in the work being done to not only survivors of HIV and AIDS, but thrive in our community through additional access to testing through Christian Hospital, to the unveiling of data, through a new dashboard that you were able to see today through the Fast Track City of St. Louis, continues to march toward its 90-90-90 targeted goals. It takes a community to accomplish this. I'd like to invite you to the panel, Darius Rucker, who is a phenomenal young man with Williams and Associates, to talk to you about the work of his organization and what he's doing in the community to give back. Take it away, Darius.
Thank you. Lean on me. 10 years ago today, walking on campus, a friend said to me, "Hey, it's World AIDS Day. You want to get tested?" After saying yes reluctantly, my heart started to beat ferociously, and I did not expect that to end until I received my results. At that time would be 7 to 10 days later. Those first results were inconclusive, and for the next 6 months, I would be chased down to get tested again and again as I received more inconclusive results, until finally it was revealed that I was living with HIV. 10 years later, I'm internally grateful for Freddie asking me to get tested. Lean on me. 2 months later, a friend answered the phone and listened to me cry. For hours on end, just a time for me to release, not knowing what to do next. All I could give to this world in that time were tears. Thank you, Jonathan. Lean on me. A friend yelled at me as I lay there writhing in pain. "It's time to go to the hospital." I'd been positive at the time for 7 months and not in care. That was a turning point. It was the first time I thought about treating my diagnosis. Thank you, Roberta. Thank you to my first partner after my diagnosis for saying okay when I revealed my status. I had become undetectable and was taking care of myself. But the hurdle still existed. At the age of 23, 2 years after my diagnosis, and for the first time, I spiritually and physically met some pretty remarkable people. Black men. I met Bayard Rustin and James Baldwin, Essex Hemphill and Joseph Beam, Erise Williams and James Green. These beautiful examples of Black men who were phenomenal, who loved and navigated the world that way that I did, allowed those items that I struggled with to become more manageable. And for the first time, I began to feel comfortable as a gay Black man living with HIV. It wouldn't be long before I came out to my mother about my status and started opening up a bit more and sharing my story more and more with others. Fast forward all the way to 2020, which has been a crazy year, and I know so many people would echo that sentiment. I've come to realize that our lives are even more interconnected as a people. This year, during National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, I was introduced to the stage by Dr. Mahdi, one of the phenomenal co-chairs of Fast Track Cities. And for the first time, it sparked an understanding in me about my status that I had not settled on before. Opportunity. Over my 10 years of HIV care, there's been one medical professional that made me feel normal again, and it was her. Normal created in me opportunity. Not to speak on that stage that day or even speak here today, but rather an opportunity to thrive and live. Thank you, Dr. Mahdi. Fast Track Cities has brought the region together to play a role in the lives of people living with HIV and the outcomes that they experience from day to day. In my role at Williams and Associates, I spend my time thinking about how to create a culture of learning and interconnectedness, one that seeks to provide opportunity and success for each other and all of those around us. That work is to understand the needs of individuals. Sometimes saying lean on me doesn't get us there as an organization. Oftentimes we wait for community to come to us because we said, lean on me. But I say, let's act first. At Williams and Associates, we like to let people know we got you. So I ask, who do you got? Who have you created space for? And as Dr. Mahdi did for me, who are you creating opportunity for? As we celebrate this 1-year anniversary of the Fast Track City St. Louis launch, I think about a question that I posed a year ago. How will we ensure that the accountability to community is our #1 priority? After sitting in planning meetings for the past year, there hasn't been one moment where we haven't paused to think about our community. Our leadership team looks like me, and that is affirming. We have spent time growing community in each other, and that is affirming. We've established a statement of equity, and that is affirming. Black lives have been centered, as well as other marginalized groups of who I share identities and proximity with, and that is affirming. Fast Track City St. Louis is here to see an end to HIV/AIDS in the region by 2030, and I am elated to be a part of that. The efforts of spaces like Fast Track Cities are the gateway to events, such as the one I attended 10 years ago today. A gateway to creating advocates like those of Baldwin and Hemphill, a gateway to friends and allies, a gateway to opportunity in life. Thank you, Fast Track Cities, for fighting to achieve the 90-90 goals, 90-90-90 goals with the lens of equity, and congratulations on this 1-year anniversary. Thank you.
My. Let me give you a round of applause. Thank you, Darius. I am elated to sit next to you at many of tables, clockwork behind the scenes to make sure that the pallets are moved and shuffled along the way. Next, St. Louis is proudly to present by the Regional HIV Health Services Planning Council, which work to better the present and the future care of persons living with HIV, living throughout the St. Louis region. I am here to introduce you to a young woman that I have had the opportunity to see grow over the last 5 years. She's rubbed elbows with me. She's called me on the phone. She's written me emails. I want to introduce you none other, Tazia Hampton, who sits on the council. She will be joining us tonight. Take it away, Tazia.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tazia Hampton. I remember in 1995, and I was 14 years old, standing in the middle of the living room watching a segment of the evening news. The newscaster was talking about the gay man's disease. My first thought was, how horrible, how isolating. And that was shortly before Brian White's plight was announced. Fast forward 4 years, shortly after I was diagnosed. And because sometimes I have a dark sense of humor, I thought, wrong plumbing. I don't fit the paradigm. Fast forward 28 years, I'm now one of the many people dedicated to helping people living with HIV in need. A member of quite a few committees, including Planning Council, Prevention and Care Strategy, Needs Assessment, just to name a few. Of course, people living with HIV aren't just MSM. They include all populations, genders, and ages. St. Louis becoming a fast track city is wonderful because it means that there's more focus. My hope is that one day no one will have to deal with the issues of being HIV again.
Thank you, Tazia. That was a wonderful selection. And thank you for allowing us your lived experiences in this shared space and bringing transparency to the fast track city of St. Louis. And thank you for being a pillar of this community to keep thriving and keep doing the mission work that we so set out to do for the 90-90-90 target goal. Finally, we have Vivint Healthcare, formerly known St. Louis Effort for AIDS, or EFA, provides different services for persons living with HIV. Through its location in the West Downtown St. Louis area, I would like to bring to you Jordan Braxton is joining us from Vivint Healthcare to speak on the work that she does at Vivint Healthcare. Take it away, Jordan.
Thanks, Cece. I appreciate that. World AIDS Day is important to me because it reminds the public and the government that HIV has not gone away, that there is still important and vital work that still needs to be done. There still needs to be money raised for outreach and prevention to some of our most marginalized communities. We need to increase public awareness that HIV still exists, fight criminalization, stigma, and prejudice against those living with HIV, and to improve HIV education, not only to the public schools, but to our clients as well. It also honors and remembers those wonderful humans that we have lost to HIV-related illnesses. So my introduction into this fight against HIV is quite unconventional. At the beginning of the AIDS crisis in the 80s, no one was even mentioning the word HIV or AIDS. Not the government, not the media, not even people. It was looked upon as the gay man's disease, and once you contracted HIV or AIDS, you were banished from your home, your family, your church, your friends, and yes, even your doctor. No one was talking about people living with HIV, especially not here in St. Louis. So in an effort to take care of those who are diagnosed with HIV, there was a need to start an organization that provided medical and social assistance to those living with HIV. So a group of us drag queens, including myself, did a series of shows to raise money to start St. Louis Effort for AIDS, or EFA, which is now Vivint Health. We also raised money to help fund doorways and food outreach. As you see, back in the 80s, drag queens, we were the Florence Nightingales of the HIV world. So fast forward to some 35 years later, and I am still here in the fight against HIV, but this time working for Vivint Health and being a relentless champion for those affected by HIV and doing all we can to help them thrive, because we believe that every person has value and should be treated with respect, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression. So the question comes to mind is, what work do we have left to do? What is our charge? Well, here's my answer. There are people in my community, the transgender community, who need programs and services who, according to the 2015 transgender survey, nearly 1/4 of the respondents reported that at some point in the past year, they needed healthcare, but not seek healthcare due to the fear of being disrespected and mistreated as a transgender person. Perhaps to alleviate this fear, we could do diversity and inclusion training for our ASO employees and for their providers. 33% of respondents who had seen a provider in the past year reported that at least one negative experience with a doctor or other health care provider related to being transgender. This includes having to teach a provider about transgender people in order to receive appropriate care, which I have done that in the past. I have gone to get a Hep C shot and had to explain to the nurse giving the shot about being transgender. We have been asked invasive and unnecessary questions about being transgender, not related to the office visit itself, and being refused transition-related care altogether. Also, maybe there could be trans representation on the Metro St. Louis HIV Health Services Planning Council, as well as a fast track committee. I would also like to suggest that ASOs hire more transgender people. Transgender individuals are more likely to seek services from an organization that employs people who look like them. Transgender voices and transgender people need to be seen and heard as we go forward doing this work. Once we do the very important and necessary internal work, then we will be able to go out and do community outreach, education, and recruitment to the transgender community. So, as you can see, I've been in the St. Louis arena fighting for and against HIV since the beginning. And I intend to stay in this fight as long as necessary, because I can't wait to make HIV history. Thank you.
All righty, Jordan, you did an amazing job. I want to say thank you. I have had several opportunities to sit in spaces with you, and we've done remarkable jobs in the community for our people living with HIV and the people that are affected by our community. And we know that people that are affected by our community, they need us too, right, Jordan? All righty. So next up, I want to introduce Franda back to the stage. Thank you for all of your hard work, Jordan, in the field that you do.
All right, so now we want to take time to answer some of your questions. We have a few questions in the chat. So keep in mind, if you have questions and you haven't yet submitted them, now is the time to do so. Time is really moving fast, but we will get to these questions. So the first question that I see is, oh, well, somebody said, thank you for all of your work on the goals of Fast Track City and introduction of this dashboard. It's our absolute pleasure. In the past year, the state of Missouri has started collecting data on trans individuals. What is the plan for the city and Fast Track cities to use this data? It is not the responsibility of trans individuals to step up when people in power are not acknowledging trans existence. Anybody on the panel want to take that one?
I can get started with that question. I want to thank the folks in the questions and in the question areas for drawing attention to our trans community and the needs needed here. And I specifically want to thank Jordan for advocating and for speaking truth to power tonight. So my background is I'm a clinician and I specialize in the care of people living with HIV. And I agree wholeheartedly with this comment and some of the other comments here tonight that we need to be better for the trans community, period. You know, this is our 1-year anniversary, our 1-year birthday. And while we've made strides and this dashboard is the beginning, I think it's obvious to everyone that there are still areas that we need to build. And some of that is because of limitations in existing data generally around our trans community. But some of the things that we'd like to do to combat that is, number one, use our existing partnerships with clinics and hospitals in the region who have data around our trans community and build that into the dashboard. So there are tabs that you will be seeing within the next couple of weeks and months. One of those will be a spotlight. And in that spotlight region, we will start to show that data as we try to build and hold our leadership at the regional, city, county, and state accountable to continuing to collect that data and make it visible so that we can add it to the dashboard, we will at least have those spotlights. But you're absolutely right. And we believe that that starts making our trans community visible and for centering their needs in the way that Jordan so eloquently put. Anyone else on the panel like to add?
Over the last 5 years or so, the CDC had this particular discussion has been had at the national level. So oftentimes what we find is that things move very slow at the national level. And so, but at the local level, we have the opportunity to really be leaders. And so as the city of St. Louis deems itself to be a fast track city, we're really holding ourselves accountable for making sure that every person in our region is accounted for as it relates to those living with HIV and those affected by HIV. And so when we look at how the data is being collected, we will be having discussions with the state and some of our other partners to figure out how we can more efficiently and effectively collect that information so that we can identify gaps and tailor our program activities to better meet the needs of the transgender population. And this isn't an easy feat, so there's a lot of moving parts that are involved with data collection. And so it won't happen overnight, but please know that this is a priority for us, and we will work until we have a system in place that's efficient and effective.
All righty. Thank you, Dr. Eccles. The next question up is what efforts are being made to ensure comprehensive sex ed is available in our public schools so that our young people are empowered to protect themselves? Any of the panelists that would like to take ownership of this question?
So I'll start with that one. So in 2017, I secured federal funding to do just that. So the National Association for City and County Health Officials had awarded the health department a grant to provide technical assistance on the provision of sexual health in schools, in primary and secondary institutions. What we found as I engaged with every school system in St. Louis County and the city of St. Louis is that sexual health has a huge stigma. And so oftentimes what you find is individuals who are in superintendent positions or administrative positions are at the mercy of their board. And so oftentimes, particularly in the state of Missouri, which is a very conservative state, it's taboo to really provide accurate sexual health information in schools. And so this is a challenge that we're still fighting. I've had discussions with City of St. Louis schools about making sure that there is accurate information made available, but also want to make sure it's culturally sensitive. So oftentimes what you'll find is that they focus on one part of sexual health, but they leave out a lot of information. But there are good sexual health curricula that are available. And through our partnerships with national institutions, we should be able to bring those resources to the city of St. Louis. However, the superintendents and the administration have to be on board with making sure that this project is successful, because we don't want to start something and not finish it. And so again, this is another priority for the City of St. Louis Department of Health, and we are dedicated to making sure this happens. And again, it won't happen overnight, but we are working to make it happen.
And if I could add, I think this is kind of the hope that we have, this is the hope that we have around the organizing rather of Fast Track Cities. And so we know that there are organizations who have this as kind of their battle cry, so to speak. But we also think about ways that we can link. Some of my work has been with the Dallas County Fast Track Cities Initiative. And we had there a subcommittee or work team whose direct task was checking in on sexual health education and how do we involve schools and superintendents. And one of those ways is to make sure that we have some representatives or decision makers in rooms where we're talking about what is needed. And so hopefully you'll get a sense, as Dr. Eccles is talking, that all of this responsibility can be shared and moved. And advocacy can push this forward by being able to share these spaces like Fast Track Cities so that people have a sense of what's really at stake. So our hope is for the person who may have, persons who may be interested in that you could find alliance with us to make that happen.
Thank you. Just to piggyback on what Corey said just a little bit. So education is really key. So when we think about what's the same issues that are impacting issues related to HIV is stigma. And stigma persists because people remain uneducated and uninformed. And so as the health department, we are responsible for making sure individuals have accurate information so they can make sound decisions regarding the health of their families and those that they're accountable for. And so the same issues, again, the stigma that exists around HIV exists for sexual health and reproductive health. So we have to remove that stigma so people will see sexual and reproductive health as a part of overall health, not this separate entity that's taboo. And so again, we have to, education is key. And now I'm going to stop talking and turn it over to Fran.
Thank you. So next question, are the data from the dashboard being curated and included in the regional thinkhealthstl.org database? And that question actually comes from my dear colleague, Craig. Craig, not yet, but it will be. All right.
All righty, our next question. What concrete steps are the City of St. Louis and St. Louis County Health Department taking to bring data collection on sexual orientation and gender identity up to the established best practice standards? That's the first part. A significant amount of Black trans women and HIV positive and yet are invisible in so much data reporting? Who would like to challenge that?
So I'll take another stab at this one. So I think we've covered some of this in the previous question that was raised. I can't speak for St. Louis County, but I can speak for the city of St. Louis. So I participated in some of the national discussions that have been had around better collecting better data for transgender individuals. And so again, this is something that is a priority for the City of St. Louis Department of Health, because we want to make sure that our programs are properly focusing their efforts and properly identifying gaps for populations that are impacted by sexual health related issues. And so again, it won't happen overnight, but this is a priority for the City of St. Louis Department of Health.
And also, there's an opportunity that Jordan enlightened me to, because as I stated earlier, this was kind of an initial data kind of culling and pulling together and curating what at a kind of a very basic level we could present and then of course build on. And so it is a glaring obvious, as Dr. Mati has discussed. I'm so glad that as a collective, even in this viewing, we are identifying the absence of that data. And so even to the point that Jordan raised, maybe we could, as we talk about collecting that data in our community, identifying where that data is with the state and how we can utilize that we can also reach into the data that was referenced about the economic challenges and some of those other contextual issues in the data that already exist, maybe not just about St. Louis. Because I think, it made me realize that, yeah, folks will be coming to the dashboard looking for some information or some clue about how they can proceed with the quality care. And so it might be nice for us to have something that people can reach into to address that. So I think that could potentially be another way we address that.
All righty, thank you, Dr. Bradley. The next two questions are hand-in-hand questions. Is the dashboard working or sharing data with the regional data alliances? And the two-part question is, can fast-track cities help get needle exchange programs in Missouri? Along with, where is St. Louis currently in regards to meeting the 90-90-90 goal?
So I can start. I think we had addressed the first question as far as working or sharing data. I want to remind everyone that this is a platform. This is a jumping off point for us. As much as a lot of work has gone into curating this and getting this together, this is as basic and as a start as we hope to have. What we want to do is to now build upon this. And part of that is now reaching out to folks who have been doing this work way before we were in existence. We are toddlers in the game. But it is these entities that you guys are asking us about that we now need to reach out to and partner with. The central core of who we are and what we do is collaboration. And so one of the things that we want to make known to you is, in thinking about future steps, we have been operating in sort of a closed capacity with our steering committee, but come to 2021, we want to open up meetings so that you can all be a part of that. And part of that is making sure that this data is shared and that we have extra eyes and checks and balances in place and an ability to be pushed. And we anticipate disagreement. We anticipate one entity saying, this is what we're seeing, and we're seeing something else. That's what elevates the data. That's what elevates the work. And that's what we're looking forward to in the following year. Because we've answered that question, I'll move on to the second question that Ms. Parkinson brought before us, which was, can Fast Track help get needle exchange programs in Missouri? I love that question. I love that question because part of where we are tonight is in celebrating a birthday. And what that does for us is make us get real comfortable with the fact that we've done it. We've given you the dashboard. But why I wanted to make this part of the program this evening is for you to provide us with what some of the priorities should be. So it's very clear. we need to be better and do better for our trans community. That's one thing that's come out this evening. But a second thing is the idea around needle exchange. And I think a conversation around people living with substance abuse and the challenges there, knowing how significant the data is, knowing all of the work that's happening in our region is something else that we need to bring to the table. And quite frankly, we have not yet addressed in as much detail and with prioritization. So it's okay for us to say, I was excited to tell you all the cool things we're gonna be doing. We have exciting initiatives around Rapid Start, getting people started on therapy early. We have exciting initiatives that we want to look at around testing. But quite frankly, hearing from you all what we need to prioritize, we will be happy to move some of the things that we have, right, further down the line to bring to the front what you, the community, wants. Because I think we need to get away from academics like myself who are well-intentioned, thinking that we know best all of the time, and respond to the needs of our community. And I think those have been made clear tonight. Our trans community needle exchange programs. I'll pause there and see if other folks on the panel would like to add to the thought and the idea that I quite frankly think is brilliant around a needle exchange program collaboration.
I think you said it well, that opened that opportunity and invitation for further collaboration. As I mentioned earlier, the work it sometimes fell victim to silos. And so bringing a whole lot of folks with a range of experiences and expertise will help us to figure out how to strategize even better.
And what's exciting is this work has been begun. There are people in their pockets doing it, but like I said, the central core of Fast Track City is collaboration, bringing things to a regional level, not a compartmentalization type approach, and therefore elevating the standards of what we do. So I'm very excited by that, and I thank you. Did you name yourself so I can shout you out for that idea? I think that's fantastic. And then the last question was, where are we in regards to the 90-90-90 goals? That's a difficult question, because what this process showed us is that there are some gaps in the data that make it difficult to definitively say to you without goals that we are at this percent, and this percent. What we know is that some of our individual stakeholders are definitely in the 70s to 80% and high 80s in most of those areas. However, what you will see us doing is trying to give you a better estimation of that. Now, Dr. Bradley showed you on our first page some of the numbers and the markers that will help us get to answering that question. There are percentages associated there, but the reason why I'm being vague is intentional, because we do not have the fast and true numbers for the region and the state, because again, that's going to require bringing in some further collaboration from some of the entities brought up this evening to get there. We're so much closer though than we were a year ago when we started, and there was absolutely no idea. It is the tireless efforts of this Department of Health led by Dr. Eccles and his EPI team coming together with our partners in the EPICOR community organizations and the WashU's Institute for Public Health. And those numbers, like I said, are the numbers that we were showing you on the first page of the data, but there is more that needs to happen to really give you the solid numbers that we are confident reflect accurately what's happening.
Okay.
Others on the call, others on the panel?
Just for the sake of time, we're going to take 2 more questions and then we're going to keep moving. So the next question we're going to take is from Brian Marshall, who joins us all the way from Tennessee. What do you think the greatest benefit has been in the past year with St. Louis being a Fast Track City partner?
Oh, I love that question. Anyone on the panel who hasn't had a chance would like to take that on?
And then while somebody's thinking about that, the next question is for actually Rick Stevens. Can Rick Stevens expand more on the opt-out program at Christian Hospital? So what do you think has been the greatest benefit this past year with St. Louis being a Fast Track City partner?
I think for us at Christian, it's been a partnership with Dr. Eccles, and also the fact that we're doing the opt-out testing. And so which is something we were not doing before. So the opt-out testing is where we're giving the opportunity for every patient coming in. Dr. Eccles, you help me here. Every patient coming into the ED will get the HIV test as part of their preventative screening. But as we inform them, because we will inform every patient that this is occurring, they have the opportunity to opt out. And so having the busiest emergency room in the state of Missouri, we think this only helps in identifying those who may have, as Darius talked about earlier, this helps us identify those who may have the disease. And we can get, as somebody also said, every life is valuable. This gives an opportunity for an individual to have as possible, a normal lifestyle, but to live their life as well. So Dr. Eccles, did I miss something from there? But again, one of the greatest opportunities is the fact that we have partnerships. And with healthcare today, no one entity can do it by themselves. And we have to be partners in public health today.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And the fact that you have the busiest emergency department in the state of Missouri is heartwarming, because we know those individuals will now have opt-out HIV testing. But it goes beyond just the testing. So if someone tests positive, we actually link them to service. So we link them to care. So we don't just tell them they're positive and they leave and they're able to exit the emergency room or the medical facility. We actually there's a case manager that will actually go on site to connect the individuals to care. So they'll have a follow-up physician's appointment, follow-up lab appointment, so that they don't get lost in the system. What we have found is it's difficult to navigate the medical system. Even for people who have insurance, it can be difficult. And so imagine for those who are newly diagnosed, who may not have insurance, but they're eligible for services. They may not know what the services are, how to get connected to those services. So by connecting them with a case manager immediately, we're able to connect them to care quicker than the national standard. And so we're, again, as you mentioned, we're grateful for this partnership. That's really what it's all about. In order for us to lift this system level work, we have to have the right partners at the table. So we're grateful for this partnership with Christian Hospital.
Thank
Heidi,
you.
I want to say thank you very much to everyone who had the time to answer each question. We know that we have a few more questions still in the chat box.
We do, and we're actually going to post those questions on those questions and answers on the dashboard. I'm sorry, Nisha, I just wanted to add that in before.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Thank you. Like-minded individuals working strong in the community to make sure that we improve personal positive change for people living with HIV or people that do not know their statuses. Take it away, Franda.
All right. So first, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight as we celebrate World AIDS Day and the launch of our new dashboard, and as we recognize our first birthday. Dr. Mahdi?
What I'd like to close with tonight is actually the answer to one of the questions that you had posed, which was, what have we seen the benefits of the last year to be? A year ago, the people on this panel can attest to the fact that we sat at tables once a month, and we kept second guessing ourselves. What was the point of this? Why even do this? What would this add? A year later, in taking our first baby steps, we've now been able to come together and bring much needed data to the fore. But let me keep it real with you for a second. We are in the middle of an unprecedented pandemic. And in that time, there are some things that I have come to know to be true. It is imperative that we do not lose ourselves, but we do not lose the people that we should be fighting for within that time. As a physician, I have seen during a time when people have been pushed to the edge, that people living with HIV will get their bus tickets. They will get in their car. They will pack their kids with them. They are coming to their appointment. They are desperately seeking the support and the help that they need. And so what I am encouraged by, and what I know that this past year for me has been embodied by the three speakers that you heard today. Darius, I was not ready. I am humbled king. Thank you. Jordan, thank you for holding us accountable and letting us know where we need to go. And Ms. Tasia, thank you for standing tall and true and speaking truth to the experience of Black women who are so often not even put in the conversation. To me, the ability for us to bring this type of conversation, this type of accountability, the types of questions in the chat that we have retrieved and will be taking back with us, makes me so proud of the beginning of Fast Track City, because that's all this is the beginning and the future of what's to come. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you to all our partners. I cannot go through the list right now, but to every single person who sits with us at the table, to our fearless leader and the mayor for showing up again, as she always has for us, for Dr. Eccles for always answering the call and coming not only with his mouth, but with his pockets and his resources. We salute you. And to everyone who came this evening to celebrate this momentous day that stands for so much, I appreciate you, we appreciate you, and we are so excited. Franda, I'll let you wrap it up completely because you know me, if I get started, I'll never get off my podium, child. So I'll let you wrap us up.
Well, you wrapped it up. You always make it easy for me. So, you have said it all. So we just appreciate you all spending your evening with us. Thank you to everyone on the panel. We appreciate you. We look forward to the second year will be bigger, better, and just keep in mind the dashboard is only just the beginning and it's ever evolving. We look forward to 2021. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Darius, the reception is at your house. We're on our way.
Yes.
I'm bringing a chicken.
Roll that beef footage again. Thanks, Kim.
All righty. Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone. And good night.
Thanks, everyone.
The table about to turn. The table about to turn. The table about to turn. Yeah. I've been flipping through my timeline, trying to get my mind right. My city cried out. I got to cool down, but I'm under pressure. Cooking with my Crisco. Look at where my fists go. A renegade when I'm in a rage. I got to cool down, but I'm under pressure. I keep my hands dirty, my mind clean. Got a new agenda with a new dream. I'm kicking out the old regime. Liberation, elevation, education. America, with the whole world about to testify. I said the whole world about to testify. And the table's about to, the table's about to turn. Kitchen, then you should do the dishes. Burning down plantations. Ain't no parking, I don't need no validation. I like sage when I'm in a rage. I don't need permission, I got my intuition. Hands dirty,